A 70-year-old man is behind bars after fatally shooting his wife in front of their young daughter. The incident occurred at 12:42 a.m. on Sunday the 10th of September, inside a mobile home at Royal Duke Park at Northwest 30th Avenue in Miami, Florida. Investigators said that Alberto Molinet was having a heated argument with his wife when he pulled a firearm from an open safe in their living room and attempted to shoot her. He pointed the gun at his wife and pulled the trigger, but at that moment it was unloaded. His wife became scared and she hid in the bathroom while Alberto loaded the gun. Alberto then fired a single shot through the bathroom door and then entered while his wife tried to push him away to try to prevent him from firing more shots. He then bit her and fired a second shot into her body, causing her to fall to the ground. The couple's daughter, who's a minor, witnessed the entire incident and called 911 to report the shooting. First responders arrived at the home and pronounced the victim dead at the scene. Her identity has not been released. Alberto was arrested that same morning and charged with second-degree murder. He sat at the Turner Guilford Night Correctional Centre without bond. The investigation into the matter continues. A man and 2 women are behind bars after children were beaten, starved and living in deplorable conditions. 35-year-old Leonard Satterfield, 37-year-old Tonya Satterfield, and 29-year-old Kristen Walker have each been charged with 4 counts of creating risk of injury by a parent, guardian or custodian. On the 31st of August, Child Protective Services and deputies went to their home at 951 Bunner Ridge Road in Fairmont, West Virginia, to remove children as part of an ongoing investigation. Investigators said that the entire residence had garbage, dog feces, and clothing all over the floor, and used toilet paper that was stacked up in the bathroom. An infant, 6-year-old, 8-year-old and a 9-year-old were removed from the home and were covered from head to toe with dirt, and that there was dirt matted between their toes, toenails, hands, neck and face. There was no food in the house, and the children seldom received baths or food. One of the children kept Pop-Tart crumbs from school in his pocket. After eating some of the crumbs, he'll put the rest in his pocket and eat later. Leonard was also charged with 3 counts of child abuse creating risk of injury. The 8-year-old child had marks on his stomach, back, and side from being hit with a belt and burnt with cigarettes. The 9-year-old told investigators that Leonard would punish him by having him stand against the wall on his tippy toes with nails under his heels, or filling up the bathtub with cold water and ice and making him sit in it. The child showed deputies a scar on his foot and said it's from the nails. The 6-year-old told deputies that Leonard starves us and that makes him feel sad, and that he gets whipped with switches, belts and hands on his butt and head. Deputies recorded that the children also told them that Leonard had busted a window and that glass had landed on the infant. Authorities said that Kristen and Tonya did not intervene and allowed the children to live in the home and receive neglect and abuse. All 3 suspects are held at the North Central Regional Jail. It's unclear who's now looking after the children. The investigation into the matter continues. 58-year-old Timothy Houston Harville is behind bars for fatally shooting his sister-in-law Angela Berryman Hill Harville. At around 6:30 p.m. on Wednesday the 13th of September, authorities responded to a residence at 2371 County Road 161 in Hatton, Alabama on a call of an unresponsive woman. When officers arrived, they entered the home and found Angela deceased with a gunshot wound. Witnesses told investigators that Timothy went to Angela's residence at around 6:20 p.m. that evening when an argument began. Timothy then pointed a shotgun at Angela and shot her in the head. It's unclear what the argument was about. Timothy was arrested and charged with murder and is held at the Lawrence County Jail without bond. Timothy was out on bond following an arrest last December on charges of shooting into an occupied dwelling vehicle and 2 counts of reckless endangerment. The investigation into the matter continues. Police are searching for 2 suspects wanted in connection to the fatal shooting of a 34-year-old man. At shortly after 10 a.m. on Wednesday the 13th of September, authorities responded to 206 East 119th Street in Manhattan, New York after Cubulin Reeves was shot multiple times in the torso. A local resident administered medical assistance before police and paramedics arrived. Cubulin was rushed to the Metropolitan Hospital, where he was pronounced dead. Witnesses said they observed a masked shooter open fire on the victim before jumping on the back of a scooter being operated by someone else. Another witness said the gunman could have done more damage if he didn't have problems with his weapon. He shot 3 times and his gun jammed, the witness said. He jumped on the scooter and they blew through the light and took off. The motive of the shooting is unclear, and the suspects remain on the run as investigation into the matter continues. 19-year-old Isabel Rose Clark is behind bars for stabbing another woman repeatedly with scissors. At 11:59 p.m. on Sunday the 17th of September, the Greene County Sheriff's Office responded to the 600 block of 15th Street in Grand Junction, Iowa on reports of a fight. Authorities said the conflict originated from earlier in the evening when Isabel and a friend repeatedly drove by the victim's residence on Main Street honking their horns. The victim told investigators that this action led to a written argument through text. The victim and her boyfriend went to Isabel's friend's home to confront them. When the victim arrived, Isabel came out of the house and started attacking her with scissors. She sustained at least 9 lacerations to her back and 1 to the left side of her head. The deputy reviewed a video from the cell phone of the victim's boyfriend. Isabel claimed her friend asked her to honk the vehicle's horn, and then an argument ensued via text messages. The victim and her boyfriend showed up at the house after being threatened via text message. The scissors were later recovered by Isabel and given to the deputy. Isabel's been arrested and charged with willful injury causing serious injury and assault causing serious injury and going armed with intent. She's held at the Greene County Jail on a $20,000 bond on the condition that she has no contact with the victim. A 19-year-old man is behind bars for sexually assaulting, torturing, and holding his girlfriend captive in a dorm room for several days. On Thursday the 7th of September, Keanu Labott went to his girlfriend's dorm room at St. Catherine University in St. Paul, Minnesota and found photos and text messages on a phone that infuriated him. Keanu took her phone and proceeded to punch, choke, rape and threaten to kill her. He choked her with both hands while calling her a slut. She said she was unable to breathe, felt lightheaded, saw stars and thought that she was going to die. Keanu told her that he'll kill her family too. At another point, Keanu waterboarded her by making her lay in the bathtub, covering her face with a washcloth and pouring water on her. He then picked up a knife and held her arm and said he was looking for the right vein to cut deep enough so no one could save her. At around 10:50 a.m. on Sunday the 10th of September, the victim managed to convince Keanu to let her leave the room and go and get food from the cafeteria. Keanu handed back her phone so he could track her movements and asked her to take photos of the cafeteria to prove that she was there. She managed to alert campus security, who then contacted St. Paul Police Department. Keanu tried calling the victim 5 times after she left the dorm and texted her asking why the police were outside. Officers entered the dorm room and found Keanu there and arrested him. They then searched the victim's room where they found a folding knife in the front pocket of the green backpack and a red washcloth that was wet on the bathroom sink. A mattress was also found on the floor, which the victim said that Keanu moved to prevent others from hearing the bed squeak during their sexual assaults. The victim went to hospital for a sexual assault exam and said there was pain from Keanu punching her in the stomach 4 times, twice in the throat and once in the face. The nurse noticed multiple bruises to her cheek, neck and ear, which the victim said was from Keanu biting her. Keanu has been charged with 3 counts of first-degree criminal sexual conduct, threats of violence and domestic assault by strangulation. He's held at the Ramsey County Jail on an $80,000 bond. The investigation into the matter continues. 26-year-old Yemisi Keto is behind bars for murdering her infant son. At 9:56 a.m. on Thursday the 31st of August, authorities responded to 236 Northwest Greenwood Place in Waukee, Iowa after receiving a 911 call about an unknown problem. When first responders arrived, they located a baby boy in an upstairs bedroom unresponsive with no pulse. Medics were unable to revive him and he was pronounced dead. While on scene, investigators detected a strong odor of bleach and located several open bottles of bleach and cleaning solutions around the child. The carpet in the bedroom was wet around the infant, as well as the bathroom floor connected to the bedroom where the baby was located. During an interview with law enforcement, Yemisi said she held her son down on the ground and poured bleach or another cleaning substance over his face. Yemisi said that when this did not cause her son to pass out, she used the other hand to cover his nose and mouth, causing him to suffocate and stop breathing. Yemisi admitted to taking these actions with the intent to kill the baby. On Friday the 15th of September, Yemisi was arrested and charged with first-degree murder and child endangerment resulting in death. She's held at the Dallas County Jail on a $1 million bond. 78-year-old Edward Drew Zalewski is behind bars after fatally shooting 42-year-old Brian Ford. The incident occurred at 7:13 p.m. on Sunday the 17th of September at 1880 Alameda Drive in De Leon, Florida, when Edward became infuriated after finding Brian trimming trees along the fence line of his property. Edward's property is adjacent to a lot owned by Brian's mother, 76-year-old Linda Ford, which is at 1890 Alameda Drive. Edward told investigators that he confronted Brian and demanded that he back away from his home, threatening to shoot him if he did not leave. Edward claimed that Brian began walking toward him and got really close, which is when he fired several shots. Brian was hit by the gunfire and died at the scene. Linda said that Brian came over for the weekend to celebrate a birthday and do some yard work for her. She said that while Brian was with his 8-year-old son trimming trees, she was in the carport sitting in a walker when suddenly she heard a loud noise. She said I heard a big boom, and then the little one started screaming, "He shot my dad! He shot my dad!" Linda said her grandson wanted to lay on top of his father's body after being shot. Ed kept pointing the gun at him. He said, "Shut up, kid," to him, the grandmother said, and then Ed was pointing the gun at me. He was walking towards the fence line and I backed up, and I was screaming through the yard. First responders got 2 911 calls shortly after the shooting, including one from Edward's wife. She claimed that Edward only meant to scare Brian with the weapon and didn't mean to kill him. The other call was made by Linda, who told an operator, "He's dead. I know he's dead. I couldn't go over there, the guy's still with a gun." She told investigators that her son was cutting trees on the other side of the fence in an effort to keep it from being damaged. Although Edward said that Brian was encroaching on his property, Linda disputed this claim. "My fence is 2 feet inside my yard," she said. "I got another 2 feet outside my fenced area." Edward was arrested that night and charged with second-degree murder. He's held at the Volusia County Jail without bond. The investigation into the matter continues. 21-year-old Larry Thrasher is behind bars for fatally shooting his brother 25-year-old Carwell Laris Thrasher. At around 6:20 p.m. on Sunday the 17th of September, authorities responded to a property in the 3100 block of Sardis Road in Hazelhurst, Mississippi on reports of shots fired. When deputies arrived, they found Carwell Laris in a critical condition suffering from gunshot wounds. He was rushed to the Copiah County Medical Center where he was pronounced dead. Larry was identified as a suspect and is located near the scene and he was arrested. Authorities said that Larry shot his brother multiple times after the two got into an argument over a phone charger. Larry is charged with murder and is held at the Copiah County Jail with bond yet to be set. The investigation into the matter continues. 24-year-old Esmeralda Aguilar is accused of pepper spraying 4 police officers. The incident occurred at just before 2:40 a.m. on Sunday the 17th of September in the 200 block of North Wabash Avenue in Chicago, Illinois. The incident was captured on police body cameras and resulted in 2 officers being treated at the Northwestern Memorial Hospital. Esmeralda, who's a resident of Cicero, was arrested at the scene. It's unclear what events led up to the pepper spraying. Esmeralda is charged with 4 felony counts of aggravated battery of a peace officer. She has since been released from jail. The investigation into the matter continues. 32-year-old Justin Wiley of Fort Wayne, Indiana is facing charges after being shot by a 2-year-old. On the 9th of September, police found Justin suffering from a gunshot wound in the middle of his upper back. Justin told investigators that he put the handgun on the bed and the 2-year-old grabbed it and pulled the trigger. Justin was shot in the home of a woman who has an active protection order against him. The woman told police she heard a gunshot, followed by Justin yelling, "He shot me." She told police that Justin said he just put the gun behind him and didn't think the child would go behind him. The child had injuries to his gunpowder-marked right pointer finger, including swelling and blistering. He repeatedly yelled "Owie" while looking at his finger. Justin is not legally allowed to carry a gun because of prior convictions of domestic battery and one for unlawful possession of a syringe. He now faces charges for neglect and unlawful possession of a handgun. Justin was released on bond following his initial court hearing on Monday the 11th of September. The investigation into the matter continues. 43-year-old David Smith is behind bars after shooting his ex-girlfriend's 38-year-old brother. At shortly after 2:30 a.m. on Sunday the 17th of September, authorities responded to a home at 5718 Taggart Drive in Hickson, Tennessee and reports of an aggravated assault. When first responders arrived, they found Trevor Bennett lying in the driveway and not moving with a gunshot wound to his head. Medics rushed him to the hospital in a critical condition. Investigators found a samurai sword and a sheath outside near the front door of the house. The victim's sister told investigators that David showed up at her home uninvited earlier that morning and appeared drunk. She was nervous and told police that David had physically assaulted her in the past. She said what started as an argument escalated when David exited the home and returned with a samurai sword. David became aggressive and accused her of cheating on him and sleeping with other men. He then grabbed her by the throat and told her if she's not going to be with him, then she's not going to be with anyone. Fearing for her life, she began to scream for help. Trevor heard her sister's screams and rushed upstairs from the home's basement holding a handgun. Trevor told David he would shoot him if he didn't let go of his sister. The two began arguing when David and his ex-girlfriend's young son went into the room to see what was happening. David then threw his ex-girlfriend to the floor. The child told police that his uncle Trevor pushed his father out the front door, and the two continued to argue outside the home. The boy said he stopped briefly to help his mother, then ran outside. The child said that when he got outside, he saw his father on his back shoot his uncle in the head who was standing over him. The boy said he was unsure how his father got a hold of Trevor's gun. David fled the scene but was arrested the next day. Trevor underwent brain surgery and doctors said his recovery could take up to a year. David's been charged with 1 count of first-degree attempted murder, 2 counts of aggravated assault, and 1 count of aggravated burglary. He's held at the Hamilton County Jail with bail set at $150,000. The investigation into the matter continues. 70-year-old Thomas Ribby is behind bars after fatally shooting his 16-year-old grandson Royce Osborne. At around 11:30 p.m. on Sunday the 17th of September, authorities responded to an apartment building in the 400 block of North Price Lane in Clinton, Missouri on reports of shots fired. When first responders arrived, they found Royce lying face down unresponsive on the sidewalk in a pool of blood with a gunshot wound to his chest. Medics transported him to the Golden Valley Memorial Hospital, where he was declared dead. As police arrived, they found Thomas outside, but he refused orders of officers and instead walked back into the apartment and locked the door. Officers later entered the apartment and arrested him. Investigators searched the apartment and found a handgun tucked in a bookshelf and a spent shell casing on the sidewalk outside of the apartment. A witness later told police she was in bed inside the apartment Sunday night when she heard a bang. She said Royce walked into the bedroom clutching his chest and said, "Papa shot me." Police reviewed the 911 call from the incident. When a witness asked who shot him, the teenager can be heard in the background saying "Grandpa" accidentally on the call. Another witness told police she poured Thomas some whiskey early in the evening, before the shooting happened. Thomas told investigators that he gave the gun to his grandson to play with that evening, but it wasn't loaded at the time. He said he took the firearm away from the teenager and placed a loaded magazine in the gun before putting in the case next to his bed. He said the teenager removed the pistol from the case and took it out front with him at some point. Thomas said he walked outside the apartment, took the magazine out of the gun, pointed it at Royce and pulled the trigger when the gun discharged. Thomas said he didn't think the gun was loaded when he pulled the trigger. Thomas is charged with first-degree endangering the welfare of a child resulting in death and resisting arrest. He's held at the Henry County Jail on a $100,000 bond. Police are investigating after 80-year-old Marcelino Valeria was shot by a masked gunman riding a bike. The incident was caught on camera at 1:09 a.m. on Sunday the 17th of September, after Marcelino and his wife had just been dropped off at the front of their home at 1209 Ogden Avenue in the Bronx, New York after attending a Sweet 16 celebration. The suspect, dressed in black from head to toe and a ski mask covering his face, is seen riding up next to Marcelino on the sidewalk and shooting him twice, including point blank in the head. Moments earlier, the shooter had been riding past the building in the other direction, apparently waiting for Marcelino to arrive before circling back again after the car pulled up. After shooting Marcelino, the offender fled on his bike and remains at large. Police have not identified the suspect or motive in the killing, as the investigation into the matter continues. 66-year-old Charles Richard Soden of West Monroe, Louisiana, is accused of molesting his 9-year-old child. On the 26th of August, the Washita Parish Sheriff's Office received a complaint of a sex offence that occurred within the Washita Parish area, where a 9-year-old victim was allegedly sexually abused by the child's father. Deputies learnt that Charles allegedly placed his genital area on the child and sexually assaulted the victim. Deputies also learnt that the most recent assault occurred on the 24th or the 25th of August. On the 28th of August, the child was interviewed and confirmed being sexually assaulted by Charles. The victim said the sexual assaults occurred at the residence so much that the child wanted to run away from home. On the 15th of September, Charles was arrested and charged with aggravated crime against nature. Bond details have not been released. A mother and great-grandmother of 3 children are behind bars after almost starving 3 young children they lived with to death. 26-year-old Hannah Johnson was charged with 6 counts of endangering children and 3 counts of kidnapping, while Hannah's grandmother, 72-year-old Diana Johnson, faces 3 counts of endangering children. Earlier this month, authorities responded to a residence at 659 Halsey Avenue in the Seddonsville neighborhood of Cincinnati, Ohio, after someone called to report a foul odor coming from the house. When police arrived, they were told it was just a dead raccoon under the porch. Officers did not see the children and left. Hannah then drove her emaciated kids aged 7, 6 and 4 years old to her mother's house in Tennessee. Once they got to Tennessee, Hannah's mother saw the condition of the children and immediately took them to hospital for treatment. Authorities said that the children were severely malnourished and will require months of hospitalization. The kids were described as having near-fatal injuries due to starvation, with all 3 of them weighing less than 30 pounds. On the 14th of September, Hannah was booked into the Hamilton County Jail, while Diana was booked in the next day. Hannah's bond was set at $25,000, while Diana's been set at $3,000. The investigation into the matter continues. 24-year-old Mackenzie Cook has been arrested twice within a week for molesting a 14-year-old boy. On the 8th of September, investigators first uncovered the abuse when the victim's family reported him missing. Authorities also learnt that the boy had been telling some of the children he went to school with that he'd been staying at Mackenzie's house at 170 Tumlin Creek Road in Rooteville, Georgia, and showed them videos and photographs of the 2 of them. When deputies went to Mackenzie's house, they knocked on the door multiple times but no one answered. Eventually, officials were able to get a contact number for Mackenzie, and within 10 minutes of getting a number, the 14-year-old returned back to his home. Mackenzie initially denied having the teen at her home, but later confessed to investigators that the teen was there, and also been there on the night of the 5th of September. After investigators searched Mackenzie's phone, they found inappropriate images. Mackenzie then said, "Oh my gosh, this will never happen again." She was arrested and charged with child molestation and enticing a child for indecent purposes, but quickly bonded out of jail. Days later, on the 14th of September, the boy was reported missing again. Deputies went straight to Mackenzie's home, and while one deputy was knocking on the door, another deputy looked through the window and saw Mackenzie on the floor under a blanket. Mackenzie was then ordered to open the door. When she opened the door, she was nude and wrapped in a blanket. Deputies asked Mackenzie where the boy was, and she told them that she did not know. At the same time, the teen walked from the back room only wearing his underwear. Mackenzie and the teen were both taken to the Carroll County Sheriff's Office. In addition to charges of child molestation and enticing a child, she was also hit with an obstruction charge in connection to the 14th of September incident. Mackenzie was denied bond, and the boy was reunited with his family. 32-year-old Lindsay Reho was behind bars after a 1-year-old daughter died from fentanyl toxicity earlier this year. On the 10th of June, authorities responded to an apartment at 386 Hancock Street in North Franklin, Pennsylvania, and reports of an unresponsive infant. The child was taken to hospital, but was pronounced dead on arrival. Medics told police that they were attempting life-saving measures when they heard Lindsay saying, "Do you think she got into something?" then asking about Narcan. Investigators said that Lindsay admitted to using heroin and fentanyl almost daily, and said that on the morning of her daughter's death, she left the house to go to a methadone clinic. Before leaving, she told police that she had some old drug paraphernalia in the apartment that she threw into the garbage can in the kitchen. She said that when she got home, she was in contact with the baby while cooking breakfast and washing dishes. A short time later, the girl was placed into a pack and play, where she was found unresponsive. Police said that the girl's toxicology report shows that she had fentanyl in her system, and the cause of death was fentanyl toxicity. On Tuesday the 19th of September, Lindsay was arraigned on charges of criminal homicide, endangering the welfare of children and reckless endangerment. Lindsay's held at the Washington County Jail without bond. 32-year-old Richard Daniel Neal is behind bars for reportedly molesting a 5-year-old girl. On the 15th of June, Henry County Sheriff's deputies were called to a home in Newcastle, Indiana, in regards to a sex offence that happened there. The victim said that Richard revealed his genitals and asked, "Why don't you like it? And I thought you wanted another turn on Candyland." Police noted Richard has Asperger's and was born with frontal lobe damage. However, family members confirmed the man is high functioning and still knows right from wrong. While questioned, Richard denied doing anything inappropriate with the victim. Richard did not give police a statement as to what happened that day and got an attorney. Police then filed a report with Department of Child Services. DCS workers interviewed the girl, who originally explained that Richard had only touched her inappropriately once and stopped after she told him to. Investigators said that in a later interview, the victim stated the incident wasn't the first time and admitted that it would happen frequently. On the 12th of September, Richard was arrested and charged with 2 counts of molesting fondling a child under 14. He's held at the Henry County Jail, but was released after posting a $23,000 bond. The investigation into the matter continues.